You may have heard the story before. The story of the birth of Jesus is told in the book of Luke and the book of Matthew in the Christian scriptures. Today we are not just going to reread or retell the story of the Nativity. We are going to relive it together. Instead of just hearing or watching the story, we are going to get inside it and make it our own story as much as possible. This, of course, depends entirely on everyone's goodwill and cooperation. Some of you, we hope, will take parts in the story and help us to see and experience this familiar tale in a new way, as if we were actually present within the story, as if it were happening right here and right now. As Susan reads the story, you will likely recognize the characters and the plot. Several times during the story, Susan will pause and ask for volunteers to play some of the parts. If you wish to be in the story, when Susan asks for volunteers, please raise your hand. If Reverend Eileen selects you, you'll be given a slip of paper. Then you'll go to the tables at the back of the sanctuary to be costumed. Please listen for your directions on where to go and when. The manger is here at the front of the sanctuary, and those who take part in the story will gather around it as you are directed. There are limited numbers of costumes, so the number of people selected will depend on the number of costumes available. Unless you are selected, please remain in your seats so that our creative chaos does not overwhelm our costumers. And after our worship service is over, it will be time to return your costumes to the tables here on the west wall. As the story is being read, watch and listen as carefully as you can for your cues. Don't worry about mistakes or delays. There are no mistakes, and delays are simply pauses in the action for dramatic effect. The story is a beautiful and meaningful one, and we are here to be moved by it once again, and we are also here to have fun. And so we begin.
We bring you this morning the story of the Nativity, the story of the birth of Jesus. Imagine that unlike the stories you have heard before about women and men bowing down before powerful kings and emperors and dictators and chieftains and tyrants, you finally hear a story about the wise and the powerful and even the humble, kneeling down before a tiny newborn child. Imagine that after hearing story after story of terrible news about persecutions and pogroms, you hear the friendly story of a birth. Imagine that in this new story, everyone is longing for peace on earth and goodwill to all people everywhere. Imagine that you are hearing for the first time a story about the transforming power of love. And imagine, if you can, a day in the future when people will really believe and will really live a story in which love is more powerful than war. And humble people are just as important and just as powerful as the most famous and powerful rulers. Let our story begin. The first volunteer needed is someone to be Caesar Augustus, and I have someone in mind, Martha Holman. So if you will come forward. In those days, long, long ago, 2,000 years ago, a decree went out from the emperor, Caesar Augustus, saying,
"All the world must be registered in order to pay taxes to me."
You may go, Caesar. the people were required to go to the city or town in which they had been born to register. For some people, that meant a very long journey. Next, we need volunteers for Mary and Joseph. And Reverend Eileen is going to be our person. So Mary and Joseph, if you can head back to the tables at the back of the sanctuary, you see where the screens are. We have our costuming room, that's for everybody. And remain at the back at the center aisle until I let you know when it's time to come forward. Joseph, a carpenter, had to go all the way from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, the city of David, the town called Bethlehem, the same village of Bethlehem that is still there today. Joseph went to be registered with his wife Mary, the woman he was planning to marry and who was expecting a child. Joseph and Mary had traveled a long way, and they knew that it would not be easy because Mary was expecting her child very soon. But there was nothing that could be done about it. They had to go. So they started on their journey, traveling by day and sometimes through the dark nights, which were lit only by bright stars. Next, we need 6 people to be stars, adults or children. If you are selected, please go back to the costume tables to receive your stars. And then when you're ready, you can come on up to the chancel. I'm going to be directing people to come up the ramp, and then we will get the stars settled. And you can feel free to twinkle once you get back up here. Now, Mary and Joseph were ready for their long journey. Bringing the donkey with them. And Mary and Joseph were ready to journey up to Bethlehem. So Mary and Joseph, let's walk slowly because you're on a very long journey. And you're going to walk up and you're go ahead and you're going to stand here in front of the pulpit, and then I'll let you know when it's time to come to the inn. And while Mary and Joseph were in Bethlehem, the time came for Mary to have her baby, but there was no room in the inn. So Joseph looked everywhere, but the only place he could find for Mary to give birth to the baby was in a stable behind the inn where there were friendly beasts. And now we need a few people to play the friendly beasts. If you are chosen to be a friendly beast, again, go back to the costume tables. And when you are ready, please come forward to take your places around the manger. Not yet, not yet. Nope, you guys are still right here. So if our stars want to come all the way up and stand by our chalice and twinkle away. And while the beasts are readying themselves, let's lift our voices in singing "O Little Town of Bethlehem."
That's a great costume.
Oh, little town of Bethlehem. And as the beasts were ready, they came up the aisle and surrounded the manger. So Mary, you're going to sit in the chair, okay? Just 1 minute.
They were definitely moose that had
All right. And Mary gave birth to the baby Jesus. And Mary and Joseph, will you come take your seat around the manger? And the animals welcomed Mary and Joseph into the stable, and the animals were even kind enough to give up their hay-filled manger so the baby could have a bed. Mary gave birth to her firstborn child in a simple stable surrounded by animals. She wrapped him in bands of cloth and placed him in the manger. In that region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. And now we need shepherds. Shepherds, when you are selected, please go back to the costume tables. And when you are ready, please come forward to stand to the right of the manger. So we'll see how that goes. We already have, yes. We already have some shepherds. And while the shepherds are getting ready, the choir will sing "Go Tell It on the Mountain." Can you just think about multitude of angels. We need one messenger angel, and then we need a chorus of a host of angels. Angels, please go to the tables to receive your halos, and the messenger angel, when you have your halo, please come to stand before the shepherds, and the rest of the angels, please stand and wait at the back of the sanctuary for your cue. And here come our shepherds.
Shepherds say something though? Don't they say something?
And while the angels get their halos, let's lift our voices in singing the first Noel. And then the messenger angel of the Lord came and stood before the shepherds. And this angel was truly magnificent, and the glory of the Lord shone around the shepherds, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them,
"Do not be afraid, for I bring you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign unto you. You will find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger."
And now will the rest of the heavenly host, our angels, join us. And suddenly there was the angels, a multitude of angels, and the angels were saying, do you know what you're saying?
Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace, goodwill among all people everywhere.
And then the angels left the shepherds and seemed to go right up into the heavens. And the shepherds said to one another,
Let us now go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which has been made known to us.
So the shepherds went quickly to Bethlehem, and there they found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger, just as the angel had said it would be. When the shepherds saw this, they told everyone what the angel had said to them about this newborn child, and everyone who heard their story was amazed. But Mary kept all these things and treasured them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen as it had been told them. And after Jesus was born in Bethlehem, 3 wise persons who were kings from the east came to Jerusalem. Now we need 3 wise persons and 1 special star to lead them. We also need 2 adults who will have a very special part. Please go back to the costume tables and wait at the center aisle until I give you your cues. And while those folks are being costumed, let us lift our voices in singing We 3 Kings of Orient Are. And these wise persons asked,
Where is the child who has been born to the King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the skies, and we have come to praise him and bring him gifts.
The wise persons learned from King Herod about a prophecy which had been spoken long ago, that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. So they set out for Bethlehem, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen when it first appeared in the east. And as the music plays, the star will lead the wise persons and their camel to the manger. Can you wait here for the And the wise persons followed the star until it stopped over the stable where the newborn child was laying in the manger. When the wise persons saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy and entered into the stable. There they saw the child with its mother, and they knelt down to worship him. And they offered him their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, which they had brought with them. Angels, will you please step forward and surround? And stars, if you will shine behind the angels. And now, if you will all hold your places for just a moment. And now that we have gathered our whole cast of characters, and they are characters, aren't they? Let us pause for a moment. Let us gather in this scene. It is a special night with stars and angels and shepherds and wise persons and many animals, and they are all witnessing to a special birth. No doubt the birth of Jesus 2,000 years ago in the stable in Bethlehem looked a little different than this. No doubt this sanctuary is larger and fancier than that small, dirty stable. But the love and the mystery and the wonder that we see here is no different from the wonder that was there at the time of Jesus' birth. Characters, please continue to hold your places as we extinguish the chalice, and if one of my stars would blow out the chalice, we are going to do call and response. May the light of joy brighten our lives. And the light of truth lead us to new understanding. May the light of freedom burn more purely in our hearts. And the light of faith sustain our strength. And if you would all remain where you are until after Mary's benediction. And I know there'll be some photos, and then your costumes will be returned over here.
Oh, fill your heart with fantasy and song. This is the time to dream, and not inquire if it be true, but let our deep desire inflame our vision. Make it glad and strong to soar beyond our want. It's far from wrong to seek release. The year's demands conspire against our natures till our souls require the melodies and myths of long. The moon is full, the wind sings in the trees, bright mountains call, and clouds and fairies dance, ideals unborn and dreams half caught awake. And we can choose what we will make the keys to life. May joy and love and peace enhance the fantasy made true that we create. Thank you, and blessed be.
Blessed be.